Hello and welcome back to Momtabulous. I'm Charla Mandare, your host, and with me today is Nancy Linnerooth. Nancy releases subconscious blocks holding women entrepreneurs back from the next level in their businesses. She draws on 9 years as a Harvard Law School trained attorney, 17 years as a therapist, and over 17 years as a practitioner of emotional freedom technique, or EFT tapping, which is what we're talking about today. Nancy is the creator of the MVP Activator, the co-author of the best-selling Your First Year, What I Wish I'd Known, Lessons from Women Entrepreneurs for Women Entrepreneurs, and a featured expert in the best-selling The Science of Getting Rich for Women book, all of which impresses her teenage daughter not one bit. I love that.
Nope.
Sometimes somebody's like, I don't care, Mom, you're still lame, right?
Yep.
So I love this. I love, maybe some of like the listeners have heard of tapping or EFT tapping or emotional freedom technique. But if they haven't, like, can you explain this for us and
Sure.
how, like, well, we'll get into like how it can help moms.
Yeah. Well, tapping is the sort of the common way of talking about emotional freedom techniques, or EFT. And then there's some other ways of tapping out there, but I use primarily EFT. And the idea is you're just tapping on points that are used in acupuncture and acupressure, but no needles. You're just tapping on these points to send a message of safety and calm to your amygdala, the mid part of your brain, basically. And it does all these amazing things. So it gets used in all sorts of ways. I first learned it in the therapy world, but it gets used in sports psychology. It gets used for pain, in medical issues, to lower symptoms and stress and things like that. So it's just this amazing technique that can do so much. And then I bring it to my clients to get rid of the rules and the fears that we've internalized when we were younger, often as children, but sometimes, younger, like last week. And then with the tapping, you can let them go. And that can just really open up opportunities. And as you said, I work with women entrepreneurs, so particularly opens up opportunities in their businesses.
Love it. I love it. And it's PTSD too, right? Like
Oh,
it can be
absolutely.
used in like PTSD. And yeah, we've done it with my kids when they were little, with like around nightmares and being afraid to go to
Yeah.
sleep and all of that. So I love it. And we got to have a tapping session and it was awesome. So what are, like, when you work with women entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
what are the most common like limiting beliefs that you hear from working moms?
Well, working moms share a lot of the common subconscious blocks as other women as well. And when I'm working with women business owners, I look at 3 buckets. There's mindset, visibility, and profitability, MVP. So profitability, that's making and keeping money. The visibility is around being seen and having a big audience. So there's a lot of things there around no one's going to listen to me. I can't be an expert. It's not safe to stand out, things like that. And then the mindset, that's where I think you find more for working moms. Um, there are things like, I have to do everything myself. That one
Mm.
comes up a lot. I have to take care of everyone. That's a big one. So that's great, at home. Well, maybe it's not great, but there's a time in the family life where the kids are really little. You feel like you have to take care of everyone. You have to make sure everyone is okay. And then even when the kids grow up, you might still be doing this, but you can take that into the work world, and suddenly you find yourself taking on extra work, taking care of everyone else's emotional state at work. But the big one, I think, that really holds back women is that sort of belief or feeling that they can't be both a good mother and be successful in their work. So that maybe is the biggest one.
Yeah. Yeah, that hits home for sure. And yeah, it is so right. It's this mom guilt, right? Around
Yeah.
like, if I'm at work, I'm missing things with my kids. And if I'm home, I'm never going to be able to go back to a career, because by the time that I go back, I'll have 18 plus years without work experience, where really you're a CEO of your
Mhm.
house. You're managing so many things and different personalities and
Yeah.
everything. But there's this, like, women have been raised to believe they quote unquote should be one or the other.
Yeah.
Right. And it's kind of maddening, because people don't do that to the dads.
No, they never do. And in fact, if you think about it, and I've had to think about this, as a parent, if you want your child, male or female or other, to see what it's like to be a mom, do you
Mhm.
want to show them only the selfless, and I don't do anything for myself, I don't have a career, I only live for you? Probably not, because that's not going to be healthy for them.
Right.
You actually want to show them the balance that you want for them when they grow up.
Yeah. And the boundaries. Yeah. It's a lot of pressure to
The
put on a
balance.
kid, of like, everything I do
Ugh.
is for you. That's a whole other
Yeah, well, that's yeah.
topic. So, how can tapping help to let go of that? Is it something where you notice like an immediate shift, or is it something that maybe takes a few times and you just notice, oh, I haven't thought that in a while, or like how does that work?
It can be both. It depends, actually. The process that I go through with my clients is to uncover whatever the subconscious rule or fear or belief is that is causing them to avoid something or to take the wrong actions, or whatever they are saying, I want to change this. I'm looking for the rule underneath it. The rule that says, no, I can't hire somebody because I have to do everything myself. Okay, well, then we rate that. And then we'll tap on that. Now, some rules, some fears, some blocks are going to fall right away. And some are going to actually be tied to a bunch of other blocks that you need to clear away several of them before you're going to see the results. But I love how quickly it happens. It certainly works a lot quicker than, say, therapy, because I remember how long that would take. But with the tapping, you can start to see some shifts pretty much immediately. You've done some tapping and you start to notice that you're thinking different about something, or you're feeling differently about something. Or maybe you start taking actions, or you stop taking the wrong actions, right? And it's fascinating how quick that can be.
Yeah. I love that. We are conditioned right now to want like immediate results, fast results. We
Yeah.
want things now. So I love that this is something that, on for some things at least, can work fast, right? That we can see those immediate results and then do the work to get the others too.
Mhm.
Um, I love that so much. So how often should you do tapping? Like, you can do it on your own, right? You can do it
Mhm.
with a coach, and then you can
Yes.
do it on your own. How often how often should we tap?
Well, there's many schools of thought about that. I know folks who say just tap every day. It doesn't matter. You don't have to think about anything. Just tap, and it's called toning, sort of like toning your energy system. I used to be of the opinion that if you want to make these changes that you come to me for, client, it'd be great if you tapped between our sessions, but the big change is going to happen in the sessions, where we're going to be really focused on whatever it is that's going on with you. Um, and then there's the midway point of that, which is, something comes up and you really feel uncomfortable about it. Tap right then, uh, and, and release it, or at least bring it down, bring the emotional part of it down. And so it really is what works for you. I used to not tap on myself. I mean, I had done some tapping at the beginning to be able to clear the way for me to actually have a business. And then I kind of let it slide, because I was tapping every day with my clients and tapping all over the place. I thought, well, I'm just picking that up, all the good from the tapping. But lately I've gone back to doing tapping every day on issues, just as an experiment, to see what's possible for me. So you
Mm,
see, it's sort of across the board. What works for you? What do you want to do? And it can be different at different times in life.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I will say, like, during the pandemic, I was tapping kind of every day on business building stuff. And it was like one of the most lucrative points in my business. And it doesn't take a lot of time. It was like 10 minutes in the morning before my family had even woken up. So it was nice to just feel like, okay, I've got this. And maybe I just was more focused. Maybe I was manifesting. It was a more manifestation than letting things go.
Mhm.
So yeah, but it really was like one of the points that my business was doing really, really well. That and people were working out at home during the
Wow.
so
That
there was
says a lot.
when I was doing a lot of home workout stuff. Is there any way to get it wrong? Can you do it wrong and like totally screw things up and swing the pendulum the other direction? Is that
No, no, you really can't do it wrong. The only one area that I would be really careful around is a trauma, a significant trauma, an accident or a threat, a physical threat, because you can re-trigger yourself. And for that, I really recommend finding a tapping practitioner who's trained in working with trauma, because just the garden variety of tapping practitioner knows a few things, but they really aren't prepared for big time trauma. I mean, you mentioned PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. This works great for it. They have done studies with vets, people who've been in the military who've got significant trauma to deal with, and it's been incredibly helpful. But there, I just wouldn't do it on my own. Some people do. I just think it is a safer bet to go with someone who's trained up in how to do it in a very gentle way, so you don't re-traumatize yourself.
Yeah.
But
No,
everything
that's
else is fair game. Just go for it. See what happens.
okay. I mean, that's good advice and for sure, like good to know, right? It's always like, what are the contraindications of something and can I screw this up? And then, so it's good. Like, yeah, absolutely. If there's trauma, you always want to go with an expert that can help you process through that
Yeah.
until you feel like ready to kind of, you can handle it on your own.
Mhm.
But it's good to know you can't really get it wrong. So, okay, can we try it?
Of course. Of
They're like,
course.
we've got some video. We've got some video, and then if you're listening to the podcast, I think you'll walk us through like where to tap and what to do. Okay.
Sure. Should I just teach everyone the points first, and then we'll do a round or two on something?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go
Okay.
through.
So you're going to be tapping about as hard as if you were drumming your fingertips on a tabletop. So not too hard that you leave a bruise, and not don't whiff it. Just solidly land that. So you take a couple fingers from one hand, and on the side of your other hand, under your little finger on that fleshy part there, you tap there while we say something 3 times. The next spot is where one of your eyebrows starts. So you can do either eyebrow. You can cross the midpoint,
Right.
and you can do both hands if you want, but you don't have to.
Mhm.
And then there's the side of your eye, right where that rigid bone is, the eye socket there. Don't hit yourself in the eye. That's not good.
Yeah.
Okay. The
Okay,
next
guys.
one's about an inch below your pupil, right on your cheek there, next to your nose. Next one
Like
is between your nose and your lip with 2 fingers. You can't miss that spot.
the mustache. Uh
Yeah, the
huh.
mustache spot. The next one is that line on your chin just under your lips.
Uh-huh.
Now, the next ones you could do with 2 fingers. It's just really easier and quicker to do it sort of broad brush. Take the flat part of your knuckles, make a fist, take the flat part of your knuckles and go where a man would knot his tie on your collarbone. Okay. And I'm not going to actually hit myself there because I've got a microphone that could really, really be uncomfortable for listening to. And then the other spots, take all 4 fingers, go about 4 inches down from your armpit. So for women, about where your bra strap goes on your side. And then the last spot is the very top of your head. I like to take all 5 fingers and making little circles there. And those are the spots that I use. So as I say, we say something 3 times on the side of your hand, and then we're just going to move around the points, saying something at each point. Okay.
Okay.
So should we do the whole guilt around feeling like you shouldn't be both a mom and working at the same time? That
Yeah.
sort of thing?
I
All
think
right.
I think that that's a good one. When I hear when I like work with clients or when I talk to people on social media, they reach out like that is like a big one for a lot of moms. So yeah.
Okay. Well, so let's start tapping on the side of your hand under your little finger. And Charlotte, you repeat after me. You'll be my echo.
Okay.
Okay. So anyone listening will, I'll say something, and then you and Charlotte are going to both say back what I said. Okay. Even though I'm feeling real guilty here.
Even though I'm feeling really guilty here.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I feel all this guilt about being a mom and working.
Even though I feel all this guilt about being a mom and working.
I deeply and completely accept myself and all that I'm feeling.
I deeply and completely accept myself and all that I'm feeling.
So even though I have guilt.
So even though I have guilt.
I am a good person when I'm working and being a mom.
I am a good person when I'm working and being a mom.
Oh, I feel so guilty.
Oh, I feel so guilty.
If I'm working, I'm not giving my best for my kids.
And so we've moved from the top of the if there's no we've moved from the top of the eyebrow to now the side of the eyes. And it was if I'm working, I'm not giving my best.
Under your eye. My kids deserve my everything.
My kids deserve my everything.
Under the nose. I need to be a really good mom.
I need to be a really good mom.
On your chin. And how can I do that if I'm working?
And how can I do that if I'm working?
Collarbone. I have to show up for work.
I have to show up for work.
Under your arm. And what if my kids need me?
And what if my kids need me?
How can I possibly do both?
How can I possibly do both?
And of course, at work, I'm distracted because I'm worried about the kids.
Of course, at work, I'm distracted because now we've moved from the top of the head to the
eyebrow point.
I'm worried about my kids.
Side of the eye. And I can't stay as late as some other people because I got to go pick up the kids.
And I can't stay as late as other people because I have to pick up my kids.
Under your eye. I'm stuck in this trap.
I'm stuck in this trap.
Under the nose. I shouldn't work.
I shouldn't work.
On the chin. But we need the money.
But we need money.
Collarbone. And I kind of like being an adult too.
I kind of like being an adult too.
Under your arm. Having a life in addition to being a mom.
Having a life in addition to being a mom.
Top of the head. So why can't I do both?
So why can't I do both?
On the eyebrow point. Actually, if I don't have a life outside of being a mom.
Actually, if I don't have a life outside of being a mom.
Side of the eye. What am I teaching my kids?
What am I teaching my kids?
My daughters will think they have to give up everything to be a mom.
My daughters will think they have to give up everything to be a mom.
Under the nose, and I don't want that for them.
And I don't want that for them.
Chin, and maybe my sons would think any woman would have to give that up.
And maybe my sons would think any woman would have to give that up.
To be a mom.
To be a mom.
Collarbone. And that's going to limit who they can meet.
And that's going to limit who they can meet.
Under the arm. And what they expect
and
from
what
women.
They expect from women.
Top of the head. So I'm not doing them a service if I give up everything just to be mom.
So I'm not doing them a service if I give up everything just to be a mom.
Eyebrow point. I can do both.
I can do both.
And I know I'm side of the eye. I know I'm a good mom.
And I know I'm a good mom.
Under the eye. And I am allowed to have a life and be a mom.
And I am allowed to have a life and be a mom.
Under the nose. Maybe that's the best way to raise my kids.
Maybe that's the best way to raise my kids.
Chin. I get to choose.
I get to choose.
Collarbone. I get to decide what is right for me and my family.
I get to decide what is right for me and my family.
Under the arm. And I get to decide what is best for myself and my kids.
And I get to decide what is best for myself and for my kids.
Top of the head. And right now, I think working is right for me.
And right now, I think working is right for me.
Okay, take a deep breath in and then let it out nice and slowly. So I ended on that's the choice because we're talking about working moms, but there'll be times when it's like, okay, this is not the time to be working. I need to be focusing on my kids. And there will come a time where, the kids are off doing their thing. Maybe it's at school, maybe they've graduated, but then it's time for you to really focus on you. And you can have one or the other, but you can also have both. And that's what I wanted to get into the tapping. So
Yeah. No, I love that. And it's not that you have to make a decision during the tapping, right? It's just about letting go of the beliefs around I have to be one or the other and I can't have both.
exactly.
I love that. So real quick, what is Buddha hands?
Buddha hands. Well, that's what I call it. I don't know that anybody else calls it that, but it's a way to do a really subtle bit of tapping so that you can calm down, be sort of relaxed, more relaxed anyway, in stressful situations. So how you do it, you take your thumb and you put it on the side of your index finger at about the level where the base of the fingernail is. See?
Okay.
And then you make little circles there, and you can do it with both hands. Now, if
Kind
you're
of like
holding
violin, like
a little violin, but it's on the side of the hand, not the front or the pad. It's on the
uh-huh.
side. Okay. So then, I mean, I'm showing it, so it's very obvious here. But if you're on Zoom, nobody's going to see that. Even if you're sitting at a desk and you've got your hands in your lap and you're doing this, no one's going to see that. I've taught people who are about to go up on stage and give a talk, and they're like, "I'm really nervous." Well, just do this. Start it before you go into the stressful situation. And what you're doing is you're manipulating about 4 of these acupoints, tapping points, and sending that message of safety and calm to your amygdala. And so it calms you down, right? And you can use it. I mean, you could do that if your kid is yelling at you. I wouldn't know anything about that with my 16-year-old, but but you can be doing that, and no one's really going to notice it unless you've told them.
Yeah. See, you told me about this and I was like, I already kind of do this. Like I fidget,
Yeah.
right, with my hands sometimes. And it's like, then it gets like to where it's a little bit fuzzy, not numb, but like fuzzy. Like I just kind of play with the side of my nail.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't-
I had a
It's like,
client who used to love to put on hand lotion. Did it all the time because there are so many of these tapping points in your hands. Every time she would put on the lotion, she was hitting a bunch of those points.
oh, that's so interesting. I love that. Okay. So you have a little freebie for
Mm-hmm.
people listening. I love this on your website, and we're going to link that below, but it's unblockresults.com/Sharla,
Yeah.
SHAR. And so it's a quiz.
It's a quiz and it is for women business owners, but you can take it and just, answer how you feel like it. And once you've taken the quiz, it gives you access to 3 videos that I've created that you can tap along with to release a common block in one of each of those 3 areas: mindset, visibility, and profitability. One of the most common blocks there are in each one of those areas. And use it as often as you feel like it's giving you some value.
I love it. Thank you. Yes. And they can see the tapping. So if they've listened on the podcast and they haven't seen it, they can see the tapping in action.
Absolutely.
And working with you is great. I've done it. We've tapped and it's awesome. There were tears and
Thank you.
releasing. So that's so great. So how can somebody work with you and like tap um, with you if they want to?
Well, I have some one-on-one programs that might be right, different ways to work with me that way, and I also have a group program, my MVP Activator. So it just depends. So the best way to figure out what would work and if there's a fit and which one of those would be the best would be to set up a time to talk with me. To do that, you just go to my website, unblockresults.com, and there's a place to contact me. And you sign up for a get acquainted call, and it'll be me, nobody else. We'll be on a Zoom call talking about what's going on with you and what you're looking for and what's getting in the way. And then we'll see, is tapping the right modality? Is tapping with me the right way to go at that?
Yeah. And it's good. It's worth it. Do it. It's good.
Thank you.
Love it.
And I don't make everyone cry. I really don't.
No, you didn't make me cry. I cry. I cry
Oh,
all the
okay.
time. I cry. I cry at commercials. I cry. So much a Disney movie. I'm like
Oh, yeah.
crying. I do. I really release a lot all the time. I'll cry after a really good workout, like a really hard workout because moving your body like releases stuff. And so
Oh, yeah.
sometimes I'll collapse on the floor and just cry. That happened a lot after my dad passed away. I
Oh, yeah.
would work out and like then just cry and release all the things. So Nancy, this was so great. I love this. And tapping is, if they've never done it, can be something. I love, just another tool in the toolbox for moms
Mhm.
of helping us to release the stress, to release those limiting beliefs, to work through things. And if you're like me and therapy is, kind of helps and kind of doesn't, and maybe you need something else, this can maybe be something that can help people. And I love that. So thank you so much for being on today. This was great. I loved you nailed it too with all the working mom tapping. And yeah, thank you so much. And I hope people go and do your quiz and get access to those awesome videos.
Well, thank you so much for having me here, Charla.
Awesome. It was great. Thank you. And we'll see you guys next time.